Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome everyone to the Kern County Planning Commission hearing of today. I will now call our regular meeting on July 11th, 2019, 7 p.m. to order. Madam Clerk, can you please proceed with the roll call?
Commissioner Ashley? Commissioner Judge?
Here.
Commissioner McGiffney?
Here.
Commissioner Skidmore? Here. Commissioner Sprague?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Ms. Simon? Here.
Moving on to item B, Commissioner member announcements or reports. On their own initiative, Commissioners members may make an announcement on a report of their own activities. Any new business from my fellow Commissioners? Seeing none, I would like to take a moment to officially welcome Lauren, our new Commissioner. I was not here for your last two meetings, so glad to have you on board and looking forward to spending a great time with you in the future. Moving on to item number C, approval of minutes. I would entertain a motion from the
Mr. Chairman, if there are no additions or corrections, I would make a motion to approve the minutes as included into our package.
Second.
all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to item number D, this is cases withdrawn or request for continuance. Looks like we have item number 1. I will now refer to staff and request them for more detail on these items.
Good evening, Chairman Judge. We do have one case scheduled for continuance. That is zone change case number 7, map 15612, precise development plan 3, map 15612, Carl Wood by David Church. Staff has requested that your commission approve this case be continued to August 8th for staff to adequately address some parking issues that were discovered on site and resolve those and come before your commission on August 8th.
Okay, do we have any members of the commission that make any comments on this case that's continued for continuance?
If none, Chairman Judd, I would make a motion to continue to August the 8th. Item D.
I'll second. Four ayes, one absent, motion carries.
Moving on to item E, to consent items. Seeing that we do not have any consent items on our agenda today, I will move on to public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on this particular agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes, and if you come up, please state your name, address for the record before making your presentation. Is there any member of the public that would like to address this commission on items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, I will close the public presentation. And moving on to public hearings, and we'll start with new cases. And we got a few items here, and I'll refer to staff again to give some more clarification on these items.
Thank you, Commissioner Judge, and good evening, Commissioners. We have one case to be heard by your commission this evening, and that project is a request from Barbara Zabeda to approve conditional use permit 138, map 101, to allow a permanent wedding and event venue at 546 Renfro Road in Bakersfield. The site is approximately 2.89 acres and is developed with a single-family residence where the applicant resides. The surrounding properties are developed with single-family residences on large estate-sized dwellings on lots with a minimum size of 1 acre. As you can see from the aerial on the northeast portion of the lot, there contains a 90-foot easement for Goose Lake Slough. This resembles a water canal, although it is classified as a stream. The slough abuts the backyard of both the subject property and neighboring properties to the northeast, which creates a natural buffer. The applicant is proposing to hold weddings and events such as bridal and baby showers 12 times a year, 6 events between the months of March and June, and 6 events between the months of September and November, with a cap of up to 150 guests per event. Specifically, the days and hours that are proposed are Friday between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. for rehearsals, Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. for wedding and events, and that would also include receptions, and Sunday from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., which would include events such as bridal showers and baby showers. Events will be held in the large open backyard area, which is behind the single-family residence. The area contains a large and small gazebo, an outdoor kitchen, and a large grassy open area that is utilized for each event. As proposed, attendees will arrive and depart from the residential driveway on Renfro Road. For this reason, the applicant proposes to valet vehicles to the designated parking area, which is located on the east half of the parcel that is not developed. Food, alcohol, and music would be provided and arranged by each individual event party, with beverages served by a licensed bartending service. Private security guards will be employed for each event based on the number of attendees, and depending on the type of events, portable potties or trailer-mounted restrooms would be provided. The residence on the site will also be utilized for a bridal suite, where bridal party members or wedding party members will have access prior and during the event. On May 4th, 2017, the applicant applied for and was approved for a temporary event permit that allowed a wedding event venue on this site. The project included 12 events per calendar year, similar to the proposal you have this evening, and would last no more than 4 hours with a maximum of 150 guests, and that would not include staff such as catering, photographers, etc. The applicant is now requesting a conditional use permit for permanent entitlement. During the processing of the request, notification was sent to the surrounding property owners within 1,000 feet of the site, as well as affected agencies and county departments. Staff received one comment letter from Mr. Richard Pittman, an area resident, who wrote in opposition of the project due to noise pollution. Staff, in response to this, contacted the sheriff's office and found and confirmed that no formal noise complaints were made during this time of 2017 to 2018, when the applicant was operating the temporary event permit. However, staff is recommending condition of approval number 6A, in which the applicant is required to submit an acoustical report for the first amplified event in order to set a baseline for any other future complaint that may come in with this department. This condition outlines that should a formal complaint be received, again by the planning department, or should the report show that compliance was not achieved, the applicant will be required to follow measures to ensure that noise is reduced. As part of the addendum your commission received tonight, staff is recommending the addition of the word event to be recommended as part of this condition to encompass all activities that may have amplified sound on the site. In addition, the word music is being replaced with the word sound to specify any amplified activities on site, including speeches or music, as subject to this condition. Staff would also like to note that should the applicant not be in compliance with this condition, as part of 6A, condition 6A, this department may investigate and could take the applicant to the Board of Supervisors to amend the conditional use permit to remove amplified sound as part of the events moving forward. Also, due to the residential nature of the area, staff is recommending your commission restrict events to Fridays with the operating hours of 5 to 7 for rehearsals as proposed by the applicant. Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sundays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Staff is allowing for a little extra time on Sundays for any event to set up for bridal or baby showers and for cleanup of the events. The number of events per year would be 12, 6 between the months of March and June, and 6 between the months of September and November, for a temporary term of 3 years. This will allow staff to monitor any complaints that may come in, monitor any of the conditions to see if and when the applicant decides to return to our department to apply for another conditional use permit, we can address any of the outstanding items as part of this 3-year term. Therefore, staff is recommending the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for a period of 3 years that would cease operations in July 2025 of 2022 under Condition 2A. Also, Condition 2A is included with your addendum tonight, and this is to address the possibility of exceeding the number of events on site. To ensure the number of permitted events are adhered to, staff is recommending an addition of number 3 to Condition 2A that should include the following. So number 3 would end up reading, upon receipts of complaints regarding an excess of events, the applicant shall submit a list of all events for each month for the duration of this authorization. This would be in the case that staff would need to investigate a formal complaint that would be received from code compliance or from the planning department, from outside neighbors or property owners. In addition, staff would also like to add an option for your commission this evening. The original conditions of approval did not include a requirement for valet parking, which the applicant has proposed as part of each of the events. Staff would like to give an option to your commission if you would like to add a condition under 6P under the draft resolution that shall read, the applicant shall provide valet services for all events. This would ensure the safety of the attendees walking to and from the event area, to receiving their cars and exiting the site. As provided with the addendum tonight was the revised draft resolution, as I had explained, for Condition 6A and Condition 2A. And staff does continue to believe that the request sufficiently demonstrates compliance with revisions, and therefore recommends your commission approve conditional use permit for a period of 3 years that would cease operations in July 25 of 2022 in accordance with the revised recommended conditions and conditions read into the record by staff, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution. Thank you. This concludes staff presentation.
Thank you, staff. Appreciate that. Is the applicant here today? Would you like to have yourself say anything on your item today prior to us making any comments? And if you would, please step up to the mic to do that and state your name and the spelling of it. Yes, you may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Barbara Zepeda, B-A-R-B-A-R-A-Z-E-P-E-D-A, and my husband, Keith Zepeda, K-E-I-T-H, same last name. If I can make a comment on the valet, we do some events that are less than 50, bridal showers. We would request that valet not be required for events that are less than 50. If that is agreeable.
The
Okay.
events when you have less than 50, you get multiple people coming in cars, so you may have 15 or 18 cars.
Let's see. My other concern was the request to put down, I think it was 3 inches of gravel or DG in the parking area for dust control. And being that we're pretty much surrounded by empty lots, we wanted to,
Well, they're not entirely empty. There's horse property there, and our property used to have horses on it as well. But since we took some measurements from our backyard to the closest neighbor's yard, and some of them are 450 feet, some of them are 1,000 feet. So for dust control, the area that we have designated for parking has some grass on it, and some of it's hard pan, so it doesn't really create a lot of dust, if any at all. So the only time I think you would ever get dust is if it's really, really windy outside and there might be a vehicle in the back. So we were asking for consideration of that because the area in the back is about 45,000 square feet. So if you're putting decomposed granite by 3 inches and 45,000 square feet, the cost becomes prohibitive for 12 events a year. So we ask for consideration.
Thank you. Just on that one comment I'd ask you is what would you propose instead of the DEG 3 inches, and how would you propose to mitigate the dust issue?
well, we'd like to be able to water that area, so that way it's moist, so that way when you're driving on it, it's not kicking up the dust, because it is primarily sandy soil, so it's not real dusty back there. And so we were just going to moisten the ground before any event, which is what we always do anyway, to keep the dust down.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I question the applicant?
Yes, feel free, Mr. Commissioner.
Hi. Well, I appreciate you coming tonight. I had a couple of concerns with this venue. The first one was secondary access onto Renfro Road with up to 150 guests, 60, 70 cars coming out on that road, which I think there should be some type of secondary access, but the way you're jammed into there, it's kind of difficult to do. So I think the valet parking issue satisfies my concern regarding that.
Okay.
Regarding the dust control, my recommendation would be to put down some type of dust binder spray, which would control the dust instead of just using water.
Mhm.
Because let's say you have events and it's 100, 105, water dissipates pretty rapidly. So a dust binder material that's sprayed on it in the parking areas would definitely be advantageous, I think, for you and for the neighbors, because if the winds are blowing, it's going to blow dust over into your neighbors' yards or pastures or whatever. You're going to have complaints. You don't need complaints. So my recommendation is that we put something in there instead of decomposed granite or something like that, is that you have some type of binding material that's acceptable to the planning department, that you can agree upon, and put, Ms. Simon, I think we could put that in as a condition that it has to be a dust binder of some type that controls the dust.
Thank you for that suggestion. That is
And with that,
agreeable.
unless there are other commissioners that have comments,
Mr.
I
Chairman,
would be prepared to make a motion.
I just had a question. If there's events outside of those dates, what would happen? I mean, you're pretty restricted into 4 or 5, whatever months. So if you want to have events outside of these dates, what would be the procedure if that happened?
It wouldn't happen.
Okay.
Would we, yeah, if we had somebody that wanted to have a February event,
Sure.
what would, what would be the procedure that we would need to follow?
To clarify that, based upon the conditions that are in this staff recommendation, if it's approved as is, you guys would have to stay within the conditions that are outlined in here. So if you guys did any type of event outside those dates or months allocated, you'd be in violation of your conditional use permit, which in turn could cause it to be forfeited.
Okay, how do I amend the
Is there
dates
another
then?
permitting process they could use to go outside of that and not be in violation of that conditional use permit?
If I may, Commissioner McGiffey, through the chair, what would have to happen is the applicant would have to come in and provide us a formal modification to the conditional use permit, and we would come before your commission again for another discretionary hearing.
Well, before we go that route, the events that we have during the year is not going to exceed 12. It probably wouldn't exceed 10, but the cap is 12. If we had an event outside that realm, it would still be within the 12. We wouldn't exceed that. Would that make a difference?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if it's just the months are kind of restrictive, I don't know why you would do that, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
that was just what I put down in my operations, was that those are normally the months that we do it, but I didn't think that then that would be a restriction, that we were only limited to those months. It
Yeah,
was only a suggestion that, those are generally the months that we do, but we only do 6 in the spring and 6 in the fall. We still keep it to only 6 in the spring, but those were just generally the months that we generally have it, but I didn't necessarily want to be restricted to just those months.
Yeah, I would recommend modifying that than just to have the 12 per year and leave it at that. I mean, it seems awfully restrictive to pen yourself in on months when there's no reason to. If you say it's 12 per year, then because that's all they're counting is 12 per year. They're not counting anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
That's doesn't make any sense to me to do that, but that's up to you, I guess, for your.
Well, the reason why we
Your
did
needs.
it, Mr. Commissioner, is because usually it's kind of cold in February, and we're an outside venue, so people
Sure.
don't really want to get married in February where it's cold outside. So usually, maybe the end of March is when they start considering to have an outside wedding. So from March all the way through maybe the first week of June would
Well, I
be.
just said you're having like outdoor showers. I don't know if you're having a party at Sunday afternoon in February. It could be possible. I'm just
That could be.
I'm just
I appreciate
throwing that out there. I don't know why you would, if the limit's 12, why they have to be within those months on the permit. That would restrict you, like Rick said. So I'm just want to make sure we're all understanding what you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Can we make that amendment now, or do I have to?
We've got the board
Mr. Chair,
here.
can we ask staff to make
Yes.
rebuttal?
Commissioner McGiffey, through the chair, it is possible for your commission to make modifications to condition 2A to eliminate number 1 and number 2 underneath that A, which would permit only 12 events per year, and remove with the following limitations. But staff is still recommending that the language be included upon receipts of complaints regarding an excess of events. The applicant shall submit a list of events for each month for the duration of this authorization. This would only, if you only do 12 events per year, it is true that the applicant could decide how many events per month that they can do throughout the year, but it would only be 12 events per month.
Per year.
Per year, thank you.
Thank you, staff. And on that comment, I'll reference back to some standards that us as a commission have come through is the reason why I believe, and I don't want to speak for staff, but sometimes that they do put restrictions on how many events per month or throughout the calendar year is due to make sure that the events don't overtake a certain time of the year to affect neighbors or having events every week, 6 weeks in a row. So it's to help spread that out because obviously, as we know, wedding venues, December's, November's, people like to get married when there's better weather outside or earlier in the year. So I think that is the purpose of why we try putting some restrictions on when they can and cannot happen. Because to the other end of it, if you guys did all your events in the first 6 months of the year, then next 6 months you're shut down. So
Right.
it's something I think would be something to think about. And to be honest, something like this, we would like to actually have that coordinated with staff prior to trying to modify something that's a big chunk of that. But again, that's something we could look at. But I think it's important to limit how many events are happening throughout the months because I think that neighbors and the people surrounding you, even though this is a good venue, we want to make sure that it's not overpowering a certain time of the year compared to other times of the year.
Chairman, but that could happen now as it is, so you could have 6 events between March and April, and then 6 events every day, every September and October, so you could do it back to back to back, so there's not there isn't a way to avoid a weekend after weekend if you schedule it this way, the way they have it. You'd spread it out more, actually, if you had a longer period of time than this. Right now, they're crushed together. I'm trying to allow them to spread it out, not crush more. Right now, they're pretty restrictive, so I would think the opposite's true if we give them more months.
I appreciate your comments, and again, I just was referencing something that we've done on other projects throughout the past on similar events
Sure.
in other areas, and that's been a common theme throughout those events.
Mr. Chair, maybe we should ask staff for a recommendation so that we could have her prepare an amendment to modify what has been placed in the application.
Staff, I have a question to reference over to you. To comment on Commissioner Spray's comment there, if we make a motion on this to approve, is there ability for the staff to have some time to make that modification, or does that have to be done prior to the vote being taken?
Your commission can modify the condition for it to be up to 12 months per year. That would be suitable. If your commission wished to add events during the year, I would ask for a continuance for staff to have adequate time for another evaluation of the project. In relation to the dust binder, your commission could add that dust binder be added to condition 5B. That would also be upon proof of the applicant for every event would have to add dust binder, and they would have to provide proof to the department that was done prior to the event. That can be also made. In addition, if your commission would like, we could also add to condition 6P that the applicant shall provide valet services for all events with less than 50 attendees for all events. Greater than, yes, thank you. I'm right on top of it this evening, as you can tell.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I ask the applicant a question?
Yes, please.
In lieu of doing a continuance and bringing it back to the Planning Commission for an approval, which would put us back to where we're at right now, would you agree to go with the dates and the times set forth in the application that staff presented to you, instead of us trying to modify and stretch it out 12 months or put it on a specific schedule for you? Since you made the application with that in there, I'm thinking, can we get it over tonight by just applying those dates and those times and just move on?
You mean agreeing to just those months? Is
And
that,
agreeing to those months, or would you like to have it changed?
I would probably like to have it include February, but it's,
The other months for us aren't practical. January is too cold. June, July, August, even the
July,
first
August,
parts of
we won't.
September are just too hot.
And that's why I'm giving you the option of, can we just fall back to what we have?
yeah.
Yeah.
And get it, because I'm prepared to make a motion, so.
Okay. I did have one other concern that I would like to address staff with, and that was recommendation 1A, that we dedicate the 25 feet of our property to the Kern County Land Division ordinance.
I had a question as to what that meant. Was it 25 feet of the length of the entire property, of the frontage of the property? Or was it just the 25 feet where it's already paved, where the cars would be entering and exiting?
Appreciate the question. I'll refer to staff on that to clarify.
Chairman Judge, I believe that the applicant is referring to condition D1, which it states record through the Kern County Public Works Department an irrevocable offer of dedication to the County of Kern for all subject property on Renfro Road 25 feet in width, per the Kern County Land Division Ordinance and Development Standards. This would be in relation to the improvements along Renfro Road in the future, and that would allow for that right-of-way to be paved and improved. And I believe that Josh Chaplin is here this evening from the Public Works Department if you need further clarification, but I believe that I covered it all.
Yeah, and if that makes sense, but what that comes down to is basically, anytime there's development happening in the county, the developer is normally responsible for all the improvements that take place. Actually, since you're applying for a conditional use permit, that wasn't required of you to do the improvements on the front of Renfro, but the requesting of the easement will basically, it's the right of way for future road improvements, for the expansion of Renfro to its ultimate width, which is something very common that's done in all projects. And that's what that item is in that for.
Well, there's already an easement there by the county. I think the city owns from the center of the street to 40 feet from the center of the street, which goes onto our property. I think it might be even more than 25 feet. The easement is already there.
Yes, an easement's already in place.
So what I would ask, and I appreciate you guys' time, what I would actually request before we move on is maybe we request staff and Public Works to come up and speak on this matter, as they're probably much more knowledgeable on it than myself or on the details. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joshua Champlin, Public Works. I think what we're talking about here is, so Renfro Road is designated as an arterial alignment. So what that means is it has a total width of 110 feet of right-of-way, so it requires 55 feet on each side of the center line. And per our research right now, Renfro Road has 30 feet dedicated on both sides of the road, so it's 60 feet right now. So what we're requesting is an additional offer of dedication for 25, so we can get to that ultimate 55 feet. So someday when presumably the county sees fit to expand that roadway to the arterial standard that it should get someday when the traffic demands it, we have that right-of-way in there, we have that dedication. And so like Mr. Josh said, this is very typical of development in the county, and usually when developers come through, they're required to put the curb gutter sidewalk and the roadway tie-ins all the way to ultimate. So that's kind of a more thorough explanation of why we're requesting that.
And thank you for that. A question I have for you as well too is the county did not require the applicant to do any of the improvements on this, they're just asking for dedication, correct?
Correct, because the rest of the neighborhood is not developed to that standard yet, so it would be inconsistent with what's around it. And we are offering, let me make a distinction here, we're asking for an offer of dedication, but we're not going to accept that offer at this time. It will be there and it will be on paper, but it won't be accepted into the road system, road maintenance, not until the time that that road actually widens, and we can't even estimate when that will be.
Got it.
Any other questions from fellow commissioners for staff?
I'm prepared to make a motion, but I'd like to give Ms. Simon a little chance to put together a formidable motion that I could put on paper.
Commissioner, I appreciate that, but prior to making a motion, I would like to ask if there's anyone out today that would like to speak in opposition of this project here today. Seeing none, then we could move over to a motion. And I think to clarify, there was a few items that we addressed that I think is to be clarified. I want to address one item when it comes to the dust control.
Yes.
And for the item of asking for the 3-inch base or ag base as requested is a pretty standard condition. Understanding the cost factor behind that, I understand that it does get quite costly to do that. But a concern I would have, even with the dust binder, is maintenance of that and making sure it's being kept up. So what I would request to add on to that is to give them the leeway of the dust binder, but if we do get complaints of dust control and this is not being done correctly, that we would refer back to the fact that we could come back to staff and ask them to move forward with the actual 3-inch base as was originally requested. Yes, you may approach.
If you look at the photo up there, you can see all the way around us where that box is. When the green ends on the west side of that box and the brown begins, that's usually where that's where all the parking is going to occur. If you look probably 1/10 of a mile all the way around there, there aren't any residences. So even if there was dust, if it did blow, it would blow probably in this vacant area. It couldn't carry that far. So, I mean, we've never had any dust issues, never had any complaints about dust. And I think that even a binder would probably suffice even if there was dusty conditions.
How
So-
about just saying, putting a dust binder down that shall be continually maintained to prevent dust?
Yes, continue to maintain. Well, only Commissioner Sprague, I'm looking for clarification on is, and it refer to staff to clarification on this as well too, is if we do get complaints and what the next steps would be. And the reason I mention that is sir, is because obviously I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of dust around you and you're in an area that is surrounded by dirt. Unfortunately, this is Kern County and the issue of things like valley fever, dust, blown throughout areas is a big concern, and something that we as a commission have to take into consideration for health and safety, not only for your event, but the people around you as well. And the people around you, I understand, are in an ag area, but you are requesting for a lot of vehicles that will be traveling on this area where other property owners aren't, I don't see them are doing that right now. So with the traffic of vehicles, the amount of in and out you'll have, that will kick up a lot of dust. And again, our goal is to minimize your expenses, and the idea of doing a dust bind, I believe, would be a great way to minimize that compared to actually putting down some base or even the asphalt as requested here. So I think we're in favor of giving that dust binder option to you. I just want to make sure we can do something to make sure it gets maintained.
Okay. Just to make mention of it too, maybe this will help relieve some of your concern. The area that the cars drive into from Renfro Road, probably the first 180 feet, it's all cement. So from that point, there is a dirt area that goes alongside the house all the way to the back. But there's only one car that goes past at a time, because the valet only takes, there might be two guys that come through together or go take the cars back and leave or exit, but there's never more than two at any particular point in time. So it's not like there's 10 cars coming through at one time and 10 cars leaving. So one car goes through at a time. So it doesn't really create that much dust.
Thank you, understand, thank you.
Mhm.
Chairman, Judge, staff would like to note on the topic of the decomposed granite that is proposed as a condition. This is a typical condition of approval that we have and your commission has approved on several occasions with a similar sized event venue that is residential in nature, where a residential development wishes to also have a commercial type development on the property. The decomposed granite is what we typically recommend. I do believe that your commission could make an option for dust binder to be added as an option to these the other options under 5B, which is the 3 inches of decomposed granite, 3 inches of compacted rock dust, or 3 inches of gravel or higher or material of a higher quality. Your commission should know that the applicant and the planning department would start to run into an enforcement issue with the dust binder, as it does dissipate for each time it is applied, where decomposed granite is a more permanent solution. However, you could add, I could craft a condition that states that proof would be submitted for each event that is held on site, and that would include for any number of cars, as this is a commercial proposal, not a residence having a typical party, so to speak. And so there would be no limit on if it was less than 50 cars or not. Staff would recommend that would be across the board for every event that is held, that dust binder be applied. In addition, dust binder being applied is hired through a company. The applicant would not be someone who would be applying that, so that proof would include possible receipts from the company that would be applying the dust binder.
Could I ask you how much that cost? Do you know?
Staff does not know how much that cost would incur. And now, if your commission would like to add that as part of condition 5B, the applicant does have the option of determining whether they would like to use the dust binder or the decomposed granite or a material of higher quality, which could be a possibility of paving, although a grading permit would need to be applied for and approved through the building department and
It
engineering
doesn't make
department.
economical sense to do anything but dust binder to me.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
For 12 events.
I'm sorry, yes, go ahead.
Dust binder will last a few hours. It's not going to dissipate that quickly, like in an hour. I don't see that being a problem if you use a dust binder. And applying a dust binder is relatively easy for a small area. So I think they're somewhat excessive. We have to bring out a truck to create more environmental dust to put more dust control down. I'm not seeing the logic of this, to be honest with you. And certainly some of the material you're talking about in a dry condition will kick up as much dust as hard pan. So I'm failing to see some of the logic in trying to we're making more dust to prevent dust in some cases, depending on the climate. So I'm really trying to this is a 10 event type of thing. We're not talking about permanent. If it was every weekend, I'd say yeah. But this is not an every weekend. This is an occasional event once a month on the average. So we're really talking about a very small environmental impact for something this small. That's just my comment on that. I'm not sure we've got the technical issues worked out in this case from a small application type site.
I appreciate that consideration, and again, I just refer to the photo up there. You can see that there isn't any residences around us. The guy to the south of me has horse property, and there were horses on it. The guy across the street has horses, and there's horses there that create dust. When cars drive through the orchard there off of Renfro Road, it creates dust. But, I mean, for us, if you would just let us moisten the property and see if we get any complaints, and if we do, then we can take it forward.
Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Mr. Acting Chair, could I ask staff a question?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Sprague.
Simon, could you craft an addendum that we allow a dust binder in lieu of the other materials you've suggested that have to be continually maintained during the life of the conditional use permit for each event? So that it does not create any dust. The reason I'm getting to that point, the chairman brought up an important point. Valley fever spores easily lift lighter than dust around the area. So I'm thinking that with the dust, if we can keep the dust down, we keep the spores down, and if they maintain it with dust binders, it's going to be a more economical way of controlling the dust there. I mean, if you're only having 12 events, it's not economical to do the materials, DG and other materials, other than a dust binder economically. So dust binder is the best way to actually handle a small event like this without putting financial burden on the applicant.
Commissioner Sprague, through the chair, staff would recommend that the dust binder be applied for every event. It is a concern of staff regarding the valley fever and dust being kicked up during an event where cars would be entering and exiting that area of the site. In addition, your commission should be made aware that the zoning surrounding the properties is A1, which does allow for horses. And so that is an allowed use by right, unlike this before your commission where a commercial event must come before a discretionary hearing to receive approval of the proposal. Therefore, staff would recommend that dust binder be applied for every event, that would be 12 times, and not to exceed that as per the application, operation, and the statement, and condition 2A. And that proof that the dust binder has been applied would need to be submitted to our department to ensure that the intent of that condition has been met.
Okay, so are you prepared then to modify the recommendation so that I have language to make a motion?
Yes.
So do we need to wait for that, or are you ready now?
I can read it. I would also like to ask your commission regarding the condition regarding the valet services, what your commission,
Well, I think because of secondary access issue on Renfro Road, that the valet is a good solution to that. That overcomes my fear of high traffic and only one access that's 12 feet wide going back out to Renfro. So I think we need to keep the valet scenario there. And the way I will do my motion is to make the motion based on what you tell us. It should be as read into the record by staff. So if you're prepared to do that, Mr. Chair, I would be prepared to make a motion after we listen to staff.
Commissioners, thank you. Appreciate that. I think I'll make one comment just to clarify that I think the staff was requesting is that if we as commission are, I think we're on board with the valet, I think would make the amendment to notate 50 vehicles or more for the valet is required. I think that's what was asked of the applicant, and I think if there's no objection from the rest of the commission, I think that's something we would like to clarify on that item.
That works for
50
me.
vehicles or people?
50 vehicles.
Vehicles.
How many
No,
vehicles?
I'm sorry, I
can't have any
apologize.
vehicles in a
Not
parking
50
lot.
vehicles, I apologize. You're correct, 50 people.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you for the
because
clarification.
otherwise it's 150 people on the event.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
So if we can clarify all that,
Get much more than
I
50
think we
anyway.
can get through this tonight.
Yes. And then, part of make motion, I would, any other comments from the commission on items here?
The only thing I was gonna suggest is for the dates, since we were a little bit caught up on that, is just saying January to June, 6 events, and then July to December, 6 events
Good idea.
versus
Yeah.
anything else.
Did staff pick up on that?
can you read that again, please?
So for the events, I just suggested to do January to June, 6 events, and July through December, 6 events.
Staff would like to note that that is an entire year. So you can say, so we could, the condition could read, this permit allows up to 12 events per year, and delete 1 and number 2 as part of condition 2A. Is that
think-
what your commission?
Yeah, and I'm okay with that, but I know some of the commissioners were a little bit concerned about potentially pushing all of their 12 events into maybe 2 months, and so this would cause them to space it out at least through 2 portions of the year.
That is possible if your commission wishes.
That's fine with me. I mean, read it to us and let's hear what it says.
I do believe that your commission needs to close the public.
Thank you for the clarity. Yeah, we will not close the public hearing. So you may take a seat. Thank you.
Did we clarify with the planning commission? With the land? I wasn't sure. You wanted us, yeah, you were saying something about donating the land.
Again, public hearing comment is now closed, but I'll clear that for you. Thank you. Yes, and with that comment is, yes, the item will stay in the conditions of approval. I don't believe any of the commissioners has requested that to be removed from the items.
So Ms. Simon, are you confused or are you ready to?
I am not confused, I'm just ready to read you the
So, Ms.
options
Simon,
that you have.
I would request for you, before I make a motion, if you could clarify the items that we've asked to
Yes.
modify on these conditions.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, Judge. The clarifications your commission had asked for were for conditions 2A, 5B, and the addition of 6P. I will read the modifications to condition 2A. This approval authorizes a wedding event venue/event venue to expire on July 25th of 2022. Any additions or expansions to the approved plan may be subject to a formal modification to this plan or a new conditional use permit as determined by the Director of the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department. This permit allows up to 12 events per year with the following limitations. 1, during the months of January to June, the project may have a maximum of 6 events. 2, during the months of July to December, the project may have a maximum of 6 events. And the addition of 3, which would read, upon receipts of complaints regarding an excess of events, the applicant shall submit a list of all events for each month for the duration of this authorization. For condition 5B, the condition will read, all vehicle parking and maneuvering areas shall be treated in a manner to continuously prevent blowing dust and shall be surfaced with one of the following. Dust binder for each event with proof being submitted to the Planning and Natural Resources Department, 3 inches of decomposed granite, 3 inches of compacted rock dust, 3 inches of gravel, or 3 inches of a material of a higher quality. All required surfacing shall be continuously maintained in good condition as determined by the Director of the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department. And the addition of condition 6P, which will read, the applicant shall provide valet services for events for more than 50 attendees for all events. That would also include the condition 6A, which was part of your addendum, which included the addition of several of the words that would all encompass the events and the sound amplification, as I read in staff's presentation of the staff report for this evening. And that would be staff's recommendations for modifications to the conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. I would then turn to our commission to see if you'd like to present a motion.
I would be prepared to make a motion unless there's other commissioners that have additional items to discuss. So what I would do is, I'm prepared to make a motion, and we'll make a motion approving the application as read into the record by staff, and look for a second.
I will second.
4 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on, staff, if I understand, this can also be a right to appeal on this?
That is correct.
Okay.
I would love to read that for you.
Please, I'll run over to you to comment on that.
Great. For projects, so for any appeal may be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department at 2700 M Street, Suite 100, Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms available at the Planning and Natural Resources Department. The filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of the hearing. That concludes the appeal process.
Thank you. Now I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.